Good morning everybody, and this is your DAX day trade setups for today. So pretty much the same scenario as what we have on the Dow, except it's not really a head and shoulders. Well, I suppose there is a diagonal, but I'm not a fan of diagonal head and shoulders. But there is a cup and inverse cup and handle. So there's your cup, there's your handle, and this is your trend line. And I suppose another way of looking at it would be a flat bottom triangle. Anyway, it is a consolidation pattern. We are bouncing around between the moving averages, which is always a risk whenever we stay below the 155. For me, that is a trend indicator. And at the moment, if we look at that, the trend is still technically to the downside, despite this big move up. Right now, we could argue that it is the wrong one, sorry. We could say it is range bound. We also do have this bigger sort of head and shoulders, shoulder, head, maybe a deeper pullback and then back to the neckline to test, which would validate a much better inverse head and shoulders. But at the moment, for my opinion anyway, it is range bound. And when the DAX is range bound, I run away. I have no interest in trading it. So you can see in the moving averages above, in the moving averages above, below the moving averages. There's no real direction here. And we're starting to get a crossover on the 3 hour. Oscillators grouping to the downside though, which would, for me, would start validating a potential range trade scenario. But to be honest, I don't like it. I really don't like it. So let's just have a look at yesterday. We had a sort of nothing going on down onto the moving averages, no real structure that we bounced off. Back to the upside, bounced off this horizontal, which then validated our triangle. And just want to adjust the triangle so we have a better view of it. So there is the start of the triangle. So we have 3 touches at the bottom, 2 to the upside. So that's 5 touches on the triangle. That is a fairly significant triangle setup. However, oscillators all group to the downside. Definitely don't want to be jumping in short here, even though we do have the validation. I'd be wanting either a retest of this trend line, or alternatively, worst case scenario, actual facts. Let's just get the other one in as well. So this would be the one that would make the most sense, which is 14,512 or 14,500. The next one to pay attention to would be 14,430. So yeah, fullbacks onto that, and we start returning. There's probably quick short scalps down to 14,307, 14,300 area. If you look at the 15 minute, the open was chaotic, and then we never really came back to test any structure. I suppose I can argue that there was the swing low, we're above it, and then we tried to test it there. But that's probably the only bit of structure that we formed yesterday, and that was just before the US Open, and we just drifted down. There's nothing really on offer for me at the moment. Clear sit on hands again for me on the DAX. So if we do stop breaking through this 14,300 area and come back to test it, then I'll definitely be looking at that scenario. If we do break into this area, I may consider a very small position down to the bottom of this triangle again. But for me right now, there's just so much confusion going on. And if you look at the 3 hour, that is a much bigger range. So the last thing that you could see here is to be held up by any one of these tails to the downside. There's just so much potential for getting yourself burnt here that I'm really not interested in. So ignoring all diagonals, ignoring all reversal patterns, and just looking at this as a range, you'd be wise to be very careful. If we do start breaking below this low and then this low here, that would validate a bigger move to the downside, in my opinion anyway. So for now, it's sit on hands. We're ranging, we're going sideways, so we will sit quietly. Hope it helps, and we'll catch up with you tomorrow morning. Cheers for now.